Gearbox has been shouting from the rooftops like there's no tomorrow about how Borderlands 3 will have 1 billion guns with which players will be able to do some cheeky shooting and looting this September. Just like the previous games, you'll find that there will be a variety of loot with different rarity levels. Once again, we'll see the return of epic, rare, uncommon guns, and so on. And during our recent hands-on session, we got to try out a few of them on Promethea, one of the new planets that players will be able to visit, and boy, are they something to be reckoned with. Now, it's all well and good playing with just a handful of 1 billion guns, and sure enough, each one did feel different to the next, but one does begin to wonder how Gearbox is able to make sure that each one of the game's billion guns possesses attributes that make them different to one another. Thankfully, we didn't have to sit there wondering about all of this for too long. To get to the bottom of those 1 billion guns, we had a little sit down with game designer Grant Cow for some insights into how Gearbox is ensuring that Borderlands 3's arsenal feels distinctive and varied.
From day one, we've said we want to increase the amount of variety in guns. And to do so, we've taken the amount of parts that a gun can become, like that form a gun, and we've multiplied it, over 10x. So like the amount of parts that kind of make a gun from Borderlands 2 to Borderlands 3 has increased dramatically.
In essence, this means that each of Borderlands 3's guns comprises of several different parts, each of which can be mixed and matched with one another. Cal went on to explain how the micro-missiles that were demonstrated during the live stage reveal are a singular part that they were able to attach to a pistol as a secondary fire mode. It then varies even further with what kind of elemental damage each projectile can inflict, the type of iron sight it has, the clip size, firing mode, and so on. Even the way guns can be reloaded differs in a multitude of ways.
At TDR, you throw it, and we've shown some that when you throw it, they explode and they turn into homing missiles and they attack the players. And if you throw one, it might become a little turret with legs that chases players.
The list goes on and on when it comes to the myriad of elements that a gun can feature in Borderlands 3. With the team adding even more parts to the guns, it drastically increases the variables Gearbox had to play with. Multiply each part with one another and that number grows even further, creating an enormously varied list of weapons. But it's one thing to give players such a vast arsenal and another to attempt to balance it all. Cal and his team were in charge of counting each and every one of those guns and making sure that they were all correctly balanced. Balancing weaponry in any game can be a feat. Heck, even Fortnite, Call of Duty, Apex Legends and the like still release updates to tweak and balance the handful of guns they have. To have 1 billion different guns to balance is a daunting task to even contemplate, but the brainiacs on Cal's team had a system to make sure that everything was fairly balanced and all worked within the Borderlands 3 world.
Because we tackle things part by part, we have them all charted so that we know if something's performing below or above expectations. We can say okay, this part itself, the micro missiles itself, is behaving outside of our expectations, right? So then we can kind of tweak it, not just in numbers, but maybe they fly in different patterns, or maybe we can make them more isolated in a cluster,
Yeah.
So those are the things that we can look at, and those are the things that we spent so long iterating on to try to get to creating that variety, but also maintaining the kind of respect to all other aspects of our game.
Balancing the guns wasn't always the priority for Cal and his team. At the top of their list was ensuring that the guns were always fun for players to use. Borderlands has been widely known for being a fun looter shooter, and the design team wasn't about to change that when it came to Borderlands 3.
We want these guns to be fun and crazy at the same time. We know people love TDR guns. Okay, how can we take that to the next level? And then that's just TDR. All the other manufacturers had the exact same treatment. How can we take this to the next level? So TDR legs are really cool, but Atlas with homing, right? Hyperion with the shields, all of them have gained extra abilities or benefits that kind of amplify the manufacturer in some way.
Of course, balancing each and every gun in the game was still an important issue for Cal and his team to focus on, but so was making sure that the vast number of guns proved to be something enjoyable and memorable for the player to pick up and use to mow down enemies.
Our focus first is definitely fun, right? We definitely want the player to have fun, and we want them to use their skills often. But we do take balance into serious consideration when we look at all our skills and all our weapons, especially because they now have grown to do more things, do different things. I'm actually in charge of some of those balance numbers, so I go through different iterations and I work with the character designers to try to make sure that I match the output that they want, the feel of what they want, but also give, with respect to balance to the rest of the game, make sure that the numbers and stuff kind of make sense.
with Cal and his team tackling each gun part by part, charting out every single one of them and tweaking the numbers, making sure each part worked properly with one another, they managed to create an expansive arsenal of unique, varied weaponry.
We wanted to add more variety to all of the possible encounters and the possible things that a player has in their toolkit. So we increased the weapons to have secondary fire modes. We increased the variety and versatility of the weapons in general. And then in terms of player skills, we gave them 3 skills instead of 1. And each skill can grow and evolve over the course of leveling. So all those things combined, the player has a lot more in their toolkit. And by doing so, we've given level design and enemy designers, the freedom to kind of be more varied in the combat scenarios. So enemies can be more aggressive now, or more defensive, based off of like the toolkit of the player, right? And the player has to adapt to that with what they've gained in this game. And so all those things combined allows the player to kind of enjoy the freedoms of all the power they have, and always put themselves at an advantage if they decide to kind of change and adapt to the kind of combat scenarios that we've given them.
So just how is Borderlands 3 making its guns more distinctive? Quite simply with more individual moving parts for each gun. That, if all goes according to plan, should be all kinds of fun and all kinds of chaotic for you, the player. The end result is that Borderlands 3 will have guns that sprout legs when being held, a pistol that can shoot missiles as a secondary firing mode, a machine gun that can be flipped into a grenade launcher, and we're only just scratching the surface here. The sky's the limit for Borderlands 3 and its billion guns, and when it launches on September 13th, we'll see whether Gearbox can deliver on its promises.